treasure. It's one of the driving forces of any D&D game. Players, myself included when I'm not sitting behind the DM screen, are constantly weighing the risk of a job against the offered reward, looting bodies, tallying the worth of recovered treasures, haggling to sell said treasures, and saving up to buy coveted items. Treasure becomes an important tool in the DM's box, able to motivate or lead the party, establish the world, and even move the plot along. Creating the perfect loot list becomes something of a treasure hunt on the DM's part. I admit it's one I like a lot. Sorting through the seemingly endless items available, trying to choose the perfect mix of what's believable, what's most helpful to the party, and what's not overpowered or game-breaking is a logic puzzle that never fails to excite me. But very early on in planning and beginning to run my first long-term campaign, I knew I wanted to do something special for my players. I wanted to make them customized hero items. Welcome back to the Mightier Pen, where I share narrative tips for the story-driven DM. Because while the pen can be mightier than the sword, it only becomes so with training. I'm Kate, an editor by trade, a writer by hobby, and a DM by default. Today I'm sharing a story from my table as we talk about customized hero items. For any of my players who might be listening, this episode contains spoilers, so it's not for you. Now, first and foremost, what do I mean by customized hero items? The items I wanted to give my players were fully homebrewed, tailored to each PC individually, and intended to grow in power as the character did. The idea of customized items that evolve over time is not one I claim any semblance of credit for. A great deal of games and resources I've seen have utilized this concept. But I thought I'd walk you through my thought process and the steps to creating each of the 3 hero items in my game. Each item has 3 stages, each more powerful than the last. I also wanted the increase of each level to be tied to a unique trigger. Sometimes it would be a specific action, sometimes using the item a certain number of times, and each item would involve a quest at some point. That's all terribly vague, I know, but hopefully as I explain what I landed on, it'll all make sense. My paladin was the easiest, and honestly, her item was the one that sparked this whole idea. She's playing an Oath of Vengeance path, a sailor turned fighter who's seeking revenge against the pirates who killed her whole crew. Even though she likes her spells, I knew I wanted to give her an epic weapon for her quest. Her main weapon is a family heirloom, though, so I didn't want to replace it. Instead, I decided to enhance it. The weapon at its first level, blessed by the goddess of justice and renamed Vengeance, was a magical +1 weapon. In order to get the weapon to level 2, the paladin and her friends had to set sail on the Astral Sea, which in our campaign is less of an outer space setting and more of a river Styx type of deal. It is the literal sea of souls and the realm of the goddess of death. There, she had to find and confront the ghosts of her dead crewmates, gathering their blessings for her quest through a variety of challenges. Now that it's at level 2, the bonus goes up to a 2, and once per day, the paladin can call on the souls of her dead crew to cast Spirit Guardians without using a spell slot. It also bumps up her dex by 2 and increases the cap for her dexterity to 22, since it's a dex-based weapon. When she eventually faces the true mastermind of her ship's destruction, the weapon will reach its final form, becoming a +3 weapon and also granting the paladin a daily use of Speak with Dead. Our druid's item also came fairly easily, especially given the template I had more or less come up with the paladin's item. As the spellcaster of the group, and one with a special interest in elemental spells in particular, she's a Circle of the Moon druid, and I for one can't wait until she can take on elemental forms. I knew I wanted to give her a buffed up spellcasting focus. One of the major aspects of her story arc is dealing with the discovery that she's a demigod. So, her item is a staff made from the branch of a tree that her godly father planted and left behind to watch over her as she grew. At level 1, it's a +1 spellcasting focus that grants her a single use of Chromatic Orb every day. At level 2, which she reached after using Chromatic Orb consistently for a while, and shortly after the Paladin's quest to boost her weapon to level 2, it becomes a +2 spellcasting focus and also gives a daily use of a more plant-flavored version of Leomund's Tiny Hut. Her quest, in order to get the staff to level 3, will require the party to travel to the elemental plane and imbue the staff with the strong elemental magics there. The staff will have a free daily use of an investiture of flame, ice, stone, or wind. All 4 spells will also be added to her spell list without counting against her prepared total, and can be cast normally as well. And this is the level which will increase both her wisdom score and the cap for it by 2 each. I struggled the most with my rogue's item. Having given the paladin a weapon and the druid a spellcasting focus, I wanted to avoid any repeats but still lean into the rogue's strengths. In fact, a weapon was immediately discarded as a possibility, as she's a soul knife rogue with psionic blades. I didn't want to take away one of the key features of her subclass. It took a lot of time and close observations of her playstyle to realize what would be best suited for her. She's a versatile player, and I quickly realized that she relies a lot on movement. Our paladin and druid, especially in her current favored bear form, tend to plant themselves on a battlefield, leaving the rogue to flit around the edges. The rogue is also the squishiest of the characters, so I took the base idea of Boots of Haste and went from there. Since the paladin's quest was before her weapon reached level 2, and the druid's before hers reached level 3, it only made sense to me that the rogue's quest had to happen to get the item to begin with at level 1. She's an Eladrin, so her quest took her to the Feywild her family came from to face an enchanted frozen mirror and her own insecurities. The boots, activated once a day as a bonus action, grant 1 of 3 possible effects for 1 minute: double speed, +2 to AC, or an extra action on her turn. Also, regardless of whether the boots are active, when she crits, she reduces her target's speed to 0 until her next turn. After a dozen or so uses, or where it's narratively most satisfying, the boots will increase to level 2, which will allow the rogue to choose 2 effects instead of 1, and also allow her to essentially grant one of her psionic die as inspiration to another player as a bonus action, provided that they're linked telepathically. The third and final level, which I admit I haven't decided how it will level up yet, will allow her all 3 effects, add 2 to her dex score and its cap, and allow her to spend psionic die when she uses any of her teleportation skills to bring other creatures her size or smaller with her, expending 1 die per creature. As interesting or uninteresting as you may have found these specific items, the details don't matter as much as the process, though you're more than welcome to incorporate any of these items into your own campaign, as this show is founded on the premise of stealing things. So here are the main things I've learned in creating customized items with varying levels of power. 1. Play to strengths and preferences. Know what your players love to do and build an item that will let them do it better. Yes, that sometimes makes balancing combat or other encounters difficult, but as I've said before, I'm all about narrative, even if it sometimes goes against strategy or game mechanics. My paladin loves doing big damage numbers during combat. I give her the means to do so. I just also add to the HP of any of the monsters they face. 2. Tie level ups to internal and external journeys. It's narratively a lot easier to tie items to a character's backstory when you're coming up with them from scratch, so don't be afraid to lean into that. I also found that by tying a quest to at least one level up, I was able to get my players to explore the world in a way they otherwise wouldn't have needed to. There wasn't a narrative reason for my players to go to the Feywild or the Astral Sea outside of their weapon quests, but those have been some of their favorite arcs. So vary the level up requirements. Make some of them tied to a certain number of uses and others tied to going places and doing things. You could even go so far as to have them travel to different places to collect different parts of the item that they then have to put together. 3. Take inspiration from other places, people, and items. There is no shortage of homebrewed items and advice on creating them out there. Do some research, poke around, look at your favorite items and stories and media for inspiration. My rogue's boots started as Critical Role's Boots of Haste. My druid basically wants to be a bender, and my paladin, well, she just likes killing monsters. 4. Be ready to pivot. Some of the best DM advice I've ever seen is simply to be flexible, but I often forget that it applies to more than just the general plan you have for the session that immediately goes out the window when the party decides to go hunting for an elusive frog in the swamp that an NPC you had to make up on the fly mentioned offhand. But I don't often think of flexibility in terms of item creation. Since these items are based on the player's characters, though, don't be afraid to make a change based on the things they do. Or, in a case like my rogue, don't worry about having it all planned in advance. I don't know how she's going to activate her item to level 3, but I don't need to know that when she's just getting the item for the first time. Your table is unique, and your items should be too. Tell me in the comments how you handle homebrewed items. I'm Kate, and this has been The Mightier Pen. Keep honing those storytelling skills, and may all your treasures bring you good fortune.